So, I asked you guys what your favorite cards of 2020 were, and this is your list. Some of these really surprised me, including the number 10 spot here, kicking it off, is Mr. Pinflinger. This was also one of the most hated cards of the year, which is intriguing and won't be the last case in this video. And, I'm not a big Pinflinger fan, to be frank. I think it's pretty annoying. I don't even really like playing it because it's just so repetitive. It's like I got to do this over and over again. But as I started reading through the comments and explanations you guys provided, of which a couple here are on screen, you kind of started convincing me a little bit that this is a pretty interesting card design that does open up some different angles and styles of play. And it's also very skill intensive, which I like a lot as well. Like, this really encourages you to be focused and think about exactly how your turn is going to unfold, which we don't have a lot of that in Hearthstone. So I do like that as a trend for a card. I think if this didn't have such an annoying piece of artwork, I hate the way that dude looks, and voice line, then this would probably be on my list too. I really do like this fundamentally from a design standpoint. It's more the flavor that, although intentionally annoying, I think it's supposed to be, it still just wears on you after a while. So I kind of hate this one, but I'm sort of sold on why you guys love it. Moving on to the number 9 card. I didn't need any convincing on this one. I too love Deck of Lunacy here. New Dark Moon Fair card for Mage. It's, to me, just really fun to toss everything up in the air and say, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. Let's just see where this game goes. And that's exactly what Deck of Lunacy does. As a streamer, that's perfect. Every game unfolds a little bit differently. And that makes it a welcome meme, to be sure, here to reference another great prequel meme. And, the second comment here actually, again, convinced me a little bit, or maybe like this card even more, is that it does have some skill basis that you have to react on the fly, kind of figure out how exactly you're going to utilize these resources. It's like, well, I got one burn damage card. How does that change the calculation? I got some survival of the fittest action. How can I play into that? How do I make all these things work for the deck I built around Deck of Lunacy? And that's pretty neat to, both see the hilarity that ensues, but also kind of adapt on the fly to the strategy changes the Deck of Lunacy requires as well. And this is the right kind of RNG. I think it's not usually like super instant or really dramatic or instantly game winning. Occasionally, if they get 3 or 4 great draws in a row, it can be that and be frustrating. But a vast majority of the time, I don't think this is all that bad to play against, and is often really, really good to play yourself. So next up here is Jandis Barov. And I was actually really surprised to see this card on the list. Not because I don't think it's cool or anything. I didn't think people loved it so much. I thought it was just kind of an everyday utilitarian card that got played. Turns out you guys like Jandis a lot. And once again, reading your comments, I sort of fell in love with Jandis. It's another RNG card, kind of like Deck of Lunacy. You get some random stuff here, but it's yet another one that encourages some strategy decisions about like which minion do you pick to receive the debuff that's going to kill it instantly. How do you mind games your opponent with that? You've got keywords that come into play like taunt and stealth and how all those factor in. And you never know exactly what you're going to get off Jandis. Sometimes it high rolls like crazy. Sometimes it low rolls like crazy, which kind of keeps the balance in check. And I agree with this commenter that even though Jandis is a really good card, she's played a lot and often just dumped into decks. I don't think she feels oppressive necessarily. Very rarely has there been that like double 5-drop where I just felt like the game was over. It still felt manageable because of that instant kill ping possibility. So this card really does hit the mark on playability, fun. I think, again, pretty good randomness in the scheme of things, and a feel-good card on both sides of the field, which is really, really tough, but quite an accomplishment. So next up here is the amazing Reno. And, hero cards are pretty few and far between these days. I hope we do get some more in the near future. I would hate to lose hero cards, even though they're very hard to balance. But I have to agree that Amazing Reno is a really, really fun one, because F Death Rattles in Res Priest. I like that the poof kind of denies the graveyard. That's pretty cool. Great battle cry here on Reno. But I actually think the hero power is what makes Reno so darn fun. Getting a random spell can just be absolutely bonkers, and it's often a really big risk trade-off for the reward of this fantastic instant removal, universal removal sort of battle cry. Reno's got the best removal in the game, more or less. And you have this downside of like, what am I going to get off the hero power? Sometimes it goes nuts, sometimes it goes terribly. That's why he's so fun. And as one of the only hero cards left in standard format, I think that's another reason people really like Reno. Okay, so moving on to number 6 for you guys, but I think number 1 actually on my personal list, it's Rattlegore, and I think he's just the perfect big crazy minion in Hearthstone. It's really hard to get these big minions right. Often, it's just a big pile of stats that isn't good enough. Other times, it's just too slow to play something giant. But despite that, Rattlegore has made his way into a lot of decks since his release, which has surprised me a bit, but I'm really thrilled about it because he just is this perfect balance of like crazy, scary, intimidating, but he takes a little while for that value to really start to snowball and take over a game. So he doesn't feel oppressive, but he still feels impressive in a way. And certainly when you can do shenanigans to get multiple Rattlegores on board, things just get completely wacky and go crazy. And that potential exists with cards like Bloodsworn Mercenary and various other tools. So I just love that spot that Rattlegore lives in. I just want to play Rattlegore decks. I want to put Rattlegore in every deck. He's that dream style of Hearthstone minion. So for me, I think he's really number 1. Moving on to the top 5 with my card reveal buddy here, Lorekeeper Polkelt. And I'll be honest, I've probably said this too many times. I'm pretty surprised to see this one on the list. Polkelt's a great card. He's been really strong and played a ton, but I didn't think he was a card like people rooted for or really enjoyed a lot, because the way we've seen him most predominantly in the meta is as a top-end card for faster decks. So things like Hunter can draw, their Dragonbane and their kill commands after playing Lorekeeper Polkelt for Face Hunter, and Demon Hunter gets Skull of Gul'dan right on curve as an outcast card. Like, it's perfect for those environments, or you get your Dino Tamer Bran and Highlander Hunter, right? He's mostly played as a top end for fast decks. And I didn't think that was like that exciting or something to really love or take away from the whole year as one of your favorite cards, because this means a lot of people named him their top card of the year. But I saw after reading the comments, you guys surprised me once again with very insightful comments as always, that I think the people who really enjoyed Polkelt weren't playing him as that kind of aggro top end card. They were playing him as a shenanigan enabler, pulling off like weird combos, putting like cheap cards like Malygos, or excuse me, expensive cards on top of their deck like Malygos, then making them cheap with the Warlock Quest hero power, pushing it to 0 mana. Those sorts of shenanigans are afoot with Polkelt. Same thing with like Galakrond Rogue. Put the cards you care about on top of the deck, play your Galakrons, and you get all those cards really cheap, right? That's where people seem to be really enjoying Polkelt, not in the aggro world. So I hadn't considered that side of it, and I hope we see more of that for Polkelt in the future. Less of this like aggro enabler and more of a shenanigan enabler. That's the direction I want to see from my boy Polkelt. Number 4, no surprise here. Maybe only that I thought it'd be higher. Cthulhu the Shattered, of course, one of people's favorite cards. People have great memories of Cthulhu back in the day because you got him for free, I think. And a lot of people played a ton of Cthulhu decks. They weren't always very good, but they were a lot of fun just building this giant thing and overwhelming your opponent. And of course, this harkens back to that nostalgic day of old, of Whispers of the Old Gods, which many people think was like the peak of Hearthstone for their personal experiences. So yeah, of course, an awesome nostalgia card here. But beyond that, I think people love these kind of journey style cards where you have to kind of unlock them or play the game towards them. We saw that in the past, like Rin, the First Disciple. It's like, boom, I drop my Rin. I've got this like quest that I have to unfold over multiple turns. Not literally a Hearthstone quest, but you get the idea. And Cthulhu's exactly like that. I have to assemble all the pieces, then I get this awesome treasure at the end of this journey, and that's an awesome way to play out the game. And even though you don't do it all the time, when you do get that Cthulhu to go off, it just feels so rewarding, and it's a great goal throughout the course of a game to play towards. So for anybody who likes slow, grindy decks that can afford to run a Cthulhu, of course they're going to love this freaking card. It's amazing. Number 3 is Zephyrus. I thought we'd forgotten about Zephyrus for these kinds of videos. He's been out a while, but people still ranking Zephyrus as their favorite card of 2020. And I'll admit, he is one of the most uniquely designed cards, if not the most impressive and unique card in Hearthstone, because of the way his wishes work. It's just crazy. No other card does anything quite like that. Algorithmically determining the perfect card, even though it's not always perfect these days, it's still pretty darn cool that they were able to put Zephyrus together. And I will probably miss him a little because of that as he rotates out of standard format before too long. But for now, people still enjoy that wish aspect, and certainly enabling Highlander decks. If you love Highlander style of play, then you're going to love Zephyrus. So not too shocking, I guess, that Zephyrus still ranks this highly for people. Not for me personally, but he is pretty darn cool. And of course, Yogg-Saron here. Everybody loves Yogg. Same story for Cthulhu. Great nostalgia, and perhaps an even crazier effect than the Yogg of old, including the Yogg of old's effect, but Rada roasting shenanigans, big time swing possibilities off Yogg. You just love Yogg. You love the chaos. It epitomizes Hearthstone. It is super RNG bundled into one big crazy bomb. It's a centerpiece for your deck, a centerpiece for your collection. You play it, you're going to have fun 99 times out of 100. That other one time you get Rada roasting in the face, and you just kind of have to accept it because, hey, at the end of the day, that's Hearthstone. I would probably put Yogg in the number 2 spot right behind Rattlegore, and he'd be awfully close to number 1 for me as well. This is, of course, a quite lovable card, even if it has some occasional downsides and oppressive RNG. I think this one's still far more upside than downside right now in Hearthstone. Yogg is awesome. But he's not number 1. That spot goes to Tickatus. And if you missed my most hated cards of the year video, a lot of people voted that they hated Tickatus as well. He took the number 2 spot, I believe. But it's clearly quite polarized for Tickatus. A lot of you love him, and a lot of you hate him. But even more of you apparently love him than hate him, because here he is at number 1. And I love this comment. Priest tears. Deleting those Shadow Reaper Anduins in Wild, I think, was the most common aspect of Tickatus that people commented that they loved. Priest got a lot of hate in Wild with Tickatus in particular. Apparently you can get a lot of Cthulhu's with Tickatus too. And I get it. It's really fun to mess with your opponent and disrupt their stuff. It's kind of sad that somebody has to suffer on the other end of that as the person getting their things destroyed. But hey, if you're the one playing Tickatus, you don't have to worry about the other guy necessarily. So beyond that, I think it's cool that we have a mill card in Hearthstone succeeding. I mean, I loved Cold Light Oracles of old. I think that was a little bit more elegant of a mill play than Tickatus. He's kind of obvious, just like boom, 5 cards are dead. But I still like that mill does exist as an alternate win condition. So I welcome cards like this one, maybe more subtle or, slower in some ways than Tickatus himself, but nonetheless a trend I could willingly accept into Hearthstone once again. So Tickatus, sure enough, you guys love killing priest cards. I hear you, and I recognize you. Tickatus is the most favorite, enjoyable, best, most beloved card of 2020. And there you go, folks. That is it for the top cards of 2020 according to you guys. You voted. These are your favorites. I think it's a pretty good list, actually. I like most of the cards on here, too. And you certainly won me over on some of them that I wasn't quite so sure about. So that said, if you have any thoughts on these cards, maybe you hate them and you want to tell everybody why they're crazy for enjoying them, particularly with Lorekeeper Polkelt. I could see some vitriol there, then of course leave those thoughts down in the comments below. We got more yearly recap videos coming, so stay tuned for those. But until then, thanks much as always for watching, and until next time, game on.